Okay, so here we have the aorta. We have the aortic arch. This is the brachiocephalic artery, and that goes up and branches off into the left common carotid artery. Goes all the way up.
It's your right common carotid artery.
The right common carotid artery. And the right subclavian artery, which would be this right there. And the left subclavian artery branches off the aorta on its own, which is this one right here. And that runs up along and turns into the axillary artery there, and then into the brachial artery, and the brachial artery runs up into the radial artery, which is detached but would have been here, and then the ulnar artery, which is also detached but would have been here. Off of the subclavian artery, you have actually four branches. You have the most medial branch, which is the vertebral artery. You have the middle branch, the costo-cervical artery, and the most lateral branch is the thyrocervical artery. And here, on the opposite side, you have the internal mammary artery. So now, if we go down, you have the thoracic artery here, thoracic aorta, and if you follow the thoracic aorta down below the diaphragm, you get to the abdominal aorta. And off of the abdominal aorta, you have three different trunks we have to know. The first one is the celiac artery, or artery. It's right here. You have, off of the celiac artery, you have the hepatic artery, which is this one, and that goes to the liver. Next to the hepatic artery, you have the left gastric artery, and then you have the gastrosplenic artery.
Thyrocervical.
There. If you go a little bit below the celiac artery, you have the superior mesenteric artery, which is this one. And then if you follow the abdominal aorta down, you get to the inferior mesenteric artery, and that goes to the colon. Okay. Since this is a male cat, you're going to have the internal spermatic artery, which is this one, and sorry, the kidneys. So the internal spermatic artery and internal spermatic vein right there. Now, we also have kidney, so we're going to have the renal artery and vein here, and we have the adrenal gland here, so this is the adrenal lumbar artery and vein, and you have the iliolumbar artery and vein lower, these right there. And then we have the lumbar arteries and veins, which lie posterior, and they are deeper behind the aorta, and they're right there. Now, if you follow this artery down, you're going to branch off into the, first you have the common, so scratch that, you have the external iliac artery, the femoral artery here, and then the internal iliac artery,
Iliolumbar artery.
which would
External iliac artery.
be branching off inferiorly, and that would be that.
Right there.
We have the veins.
Show me the pre-cup.
Here's the precava, the postcava,
The azygous vein.
the azygous vein, which is on the right
Internal mammary vein.
side. And
Intercostal
if you
vein.
see here, it's detached, but it's that vein right there.
Intercostal arteries. Yep.
Yeah.
It's along the
So I know that the
thoracic body wall.
no, this is the costal. Oh.
Yeah, the internal mammary vein.
Yeah.
So the internal mammary vein is just branching off of the precava.
You already said you already showed me the azygous, right?
And
Yeah.
the left brachiocephalic vein.
So your left brachiocephalic.
Left brachiocephalic
Your right.
vein. It's right here.
And
Right
left
brachiocephalic vein. Left external jugular vein
You just heard that.
Yeah,
Oh, for
but
brachiocephalic?
left brachiocephalic.
will be
Yeah.
They only have
this
one.
this vein right here, which is
Why?
detached with this one. You can see the right external jugular vein here.
The left brachiocephalic
And then you
vein,
have
and
the
then
Oh,
right.
internal jugular veins,
This is your
which
postcava.
are right here.
Yeah, the brachiocephalic artery.
That is the
right
left internal jugular vein.
You
You have the transverse scapular vein. So if you follow these arteries up, you have the thyrocervical artery. The thyrocervical artery becomes continuous with the
With the artery?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can see it.
transverse scapular artery, and that goes to the shoulder. And next to the transverse scapular artery, you have the transverse scapular vein. So if you follow this subclavian artery to the axillary artery, you get to the subscapular artery, and the subscapular artery has next to it the subscapular vein. Okay.
This would be the, so this is the brachiocephalic.
If you move up, if you go up the
And then this is
external
the subclavian.
jugular vein, you have the anterior facial vein right there, the posterior facial vein right there, and the transverse jugular vein right here going across. Okay, so now we're going to go over veins draining into the post cava. So we have the renal vein here. We have the adrenolumbar vein right there. Since this is a male, we're going to have the
You're constantly going up and down.
Yeah.
internal testicular
I can't wait until this.
vein
Oh, this one.
Well, I mean,
there.
I just really want a break.
If we go down, we're going to reach the common iliac vein. This is the left side, and we have the right side. If you follow this vein down, you're going to reach the external iliac vein,
Where do you work?
left side, and left side. If you go down the external iliac vein, you're going to branch off into the femoral vein here, and this is a superficial femoral vein, while its deep femoral vein is lying right next to it, which is right there. And I mentioned the external iliac vein. You have the internal iliac vein going inferiorly towards the back of the cat, and that's lying down there. You can kind of see it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the portal systems.
No, that helped. I didn't even notice there was a difference.
And I don't know if I mentioned here, the femoral vein superficial femoral vein becomes continuous with the great saphenous vein. Alright, so here we have the larynx, and we have the thyroid cartilage of the larynx, the cricoid cartilage of the larynx, the trachea, and underneath the trachea we have the esophagus.
Yeah, but this one, oh, okay, I see
There.
I see the big one.
So if we go down to the thoracic cavity, we have parietal pleura lining the walls of the thoracic cavity. Visceral, parietal, parietal pleura lining the walls. Visceral pleura lining the organs. You have bronchi of the lungs, which are these white extensions that are hard to see, but they're white extensions going into the lungs. For the lungs, you have the anterior, middle, and posterior. So on the right side, we have the anterior lobe of the right lung.
Oh,
We have the middle
yeah.
lobe of the right lung, and we have the posterior lobe of the right lung. And the posterior lobe is divided actually into two parts. You have the medial posterior lobe of the right lung, and this is the left, or the lateral posterior lobe of the right lung. On the left side, you have the anterior lobe of the left lung, the middle lobe of the left lung, and the posterior lobe of the left lung. Beneath the lungs, you have the diaphragm, this flap, and this diaphragm is connected to the liver via the falciform ligament. So as we move on to the liver, you have different lobes. You have the medial lobe, left medial lobe of the liver, the left lateral lobe of the liver. You have the quadrate lobe, and you have the right medial lobe of the liver. And underneath that, you're going to have, here is the right lateral lobe of, or the right lateral anterior lobe of the liver, and the right lateral posterior lobe of the liver. Here's the caudate lobe, and connecting the liver to the lesser curvature of the stomach is the lesser omentum here. As we move on to the stomach region, okay, and just one more part, the liver region, you have the gallbladder here, and off of the gallbladder you have bile ducts that are going to drain into stomach.
Oh no.
Okay, so,
That's the thoracic.
Yeah, hepatic portal too. So that's pretty good.
yeah, so so we have the stomach here. This region of the stomach where the esophagus and the stomach connect is the cardiac region. This curvature at the top here, that's the fundus. This curvature is the lesser curvature. This border is the greater curvature. The body of the stomach, and the pyloric region of the stomach where it meets the duodenum. The duodenum is the beginning of the small intestine here. Within the duodenum you have the head of the pancreas,
Mesentery proper.
and the tail of the pancreas is going to be seen if we move Is that the way? We have the tail of the pancreas here. So the duodenum is continuous with the jejunum, which makes up most of the small intestine. Jejunum. The jejunum is held together by the mesentery proper. And the jejunum terminates at the ileum, which is here. The ileum connects to the cecum via the ileocecal sphincter, and you can see that better in there. And then you have the cecum, which becomes continuous. It's part of the large intestine, and you have the colon here. The mesocolon is the mesentery that connects the colon to the body.
Okay, well, the ileum and then the ileocecal valve.
Okay.
So pancreas?
Quick.
So if she were to
So,
ask, you know, like,
as we said, here's the lesser omentum between the liver and the stomach. The greater omentum starting at the greater curvature of the stomach and covering the abdominal organs. We have the spleen here, and between the stomach and the spleen is the gastrosplenic ligament. So now we have the kidneys here, and the adipose capsule is the covering over the kidneys. Connecting to the kidneys are the ureters, and the ureters are going to follow down to the urinary bladder, and the urinary bladder has the urethra extending off of it. Okay, and since this is a male cat, we're going to have male reproductive organs. Here's a spermatic cord connecting to the testes. Covering around the testes is the epididymis. You have the penis here. And you have the prostate, which are going to be little circular bulbs within this region here. The rectum is right here, and the rectum becomes continuous down here with the anus in there. We have the vas deferens, which is also part of the reproductive system here. Vas deferens. Here we have a female cat. In the female cat, you're going to have the ovaries right there, ovaries. And surrounding the ovaries, you're going to have the oviducts or fallopian tubes. Oviducts. Holding the ovaries and the fallopian tubes together is going to be a mesentery mesosalpinx. And this upper region holding it to the body wall is the mesovarium, and holding the lower uterine horns is the mesometrium. We have a ligament here, is the suspensory ligament. And as we move down from the ovaries to the uterine horns, we meet the body of the uterus, and that's continuous with the vagina. And the urethra lies above the vagina.
Urogenital sinus.
The urogenital sinus is this area where you have many of these reproductive vessels meeting. And that's it. hepatic portal system, we have
Oh, yeah, he said something.
the hepatic portal vein here, draining into the superior mesenteric vein right below it. Superior mesenteric vein,
Thank you very, very much.
it branches with the intestinal veins here, as well as the
I don't want to go over it.
inferior mesenteric vein near the colon.
But without the sheet. You want to do
The
it?
gastrosplenic vein here, and where the duodenum is the the anterior pancreatico-duodenal vein. So the nervous system of the cat, we have the vagus nerve running alongside the common carotid artery. If you follow the vagus nerve up, you're going to have the superior cervical ganglion, which will be located here. Now, going down to the diaphragm, innervating the diaphragm, we have the phrenic nerve here. And now if we go to the sympathetic chain, we're going to find it near the body wall, the sympathetic chain with ganglion. Follow that down, you're going to reach the greater splanchnic nerve here. And the greater splanchnic nerve is going to meet the celiac ganglion right there. The brachial plexus is a network of nerves in this region there. And that's it.